Sorry, you caught us having a chat. So a question. How can you understand your dog if you don't speak their language? My name's Holly. This is my sidekick, Colby. I've got 50 years of loving dogs in a personal capacity and also in a professional capacity, caring for and helping to train pet dogs, show dogs, working dogs and service dogs. With all that experience, I thought I was really fluent in dog, but there was a lot of nuance and subtlety that I'd not picked up on. And that's because since the days that I started taking care of my own dogs and working in the dog industry back in the 90s, so much has been learned about the way dogs are, the way dogs behave, the way dogs live, and the way dogs communicate. And even if that wasn't the case, you never stop learning, you never know it all. So that's why we're revisiting this today. To quote Max Randall of MK9 Plus, top dog trainer, I recommend that you check him out. I'm going to read this because I want to get the quote correct. All body language and behaviours are expressions of emotion. So everything your dog does is an expression of the way that it is feeling. They are not problems, but symptoms and forms of communication. So one common example of this would be people interpret barking as a problem. Barking in and of itself is not a problem. Barking can be annoying, yes, but barking in and of itself is not a problem. Barking is communication. If you want the barking to stop, it's not enough to suppress that behaviour. You need to get to the root cause of why the dog is barking, and then you can solve the problem. It isn't my plan today to make a long video explaining all the aspects of dog body language because there's just too much to fit into one video, and I do not have the resources or amount of footage available. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to refer you to some already existing fantastic resources that you can use to enhance your understanding of what your dog's telling you to make you and your dog's lives happier, calmer and more fulfilled. So please look at these resources once you finish watching this video because there's still plenty of juicy things for you to learn. In regards to books, a book by Lily Chin called Body Language, because it uses cartoons and illustrations to show how different dogs are feeling in different situations. So it's really clear, and it's an excellent book to share with children so that you can help them understand what their dog is telling them. And of course, that's absolutely vital because you want to keep everybody safe. Another book, not a massively long book either, but a really useful one is, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, but the author's name is Turid Rugas, On Talking Terms with Dogs, which goes into her extensive history of learning to communicate with and recognise what her dogs are telling her to understand where they're coming from and provide for their needs in a genuine and authentic way, rather than the old-fashioned idea of teaching obedience and suppressing behaviours. In terms of online content, I would recommend MK9 Plus, Max Randall, as I've spoken about. He's done a whole series of little bite-sized shorts, but there's one on ears, one on feet, one on hackles. If you work through them, again, I will drop a link in the description. Incredibly quick, incredibly accessible and incredibly useful. I'm also going to link to a playlist of Susan Garrett videos, which covers how dogs express themselves and dog body language, which is useful to look at as well. Those resources that I've listed will give you a brilliant jumping off point in order to understand your dog better. So my second point is that body language must be interpreted in context. And I really can't stress that enough. So what do I mean by we need to look at it in context? Well, first of all, there's the situation. How could that be shading the way that your dog feels? Don't just concentrate on one area of your dog's body. So I know that I'm giving you a list of Max's videos where he focuses on one area of the body at once. But ideally, you want to look at least at 3 different areas of the dog's body and see what they're all telling you. And then you can put together a bigger picture of how the dog is feeling overall. So as well as the situation, and what the other dog's body parts are telling you. You need to consider the individual dog. How has the dog reacted in the past? What do you know about the way that dog tends to react? Fourth is beware anthropomorphism. Now, that's a very long word. What does it mean? Anthropomorphism is the tendency of humans to assign human feelings and behaviours to non-human things and animals. So a really good example of this is there's a really good YouTube channel called Nordic Training. The lady who runs that channel gives a really good example. It appeared to the humans that a dog was smiling and happy and relaxed, but they found that when the child came home from school every day with his friends, the dog was out of nowhere suddenly snapping and growling and barking at the child and his friends. And it wasn't until this trainer came in and observed what was happening that she was saying, what this dog is doing, it's not like a human smile. He's not saying that he's happy to see you. The smile that he's showing is showing that he's tense and he's trying to appease the situation. And as soon as she was able to communicate to the children that if you see the dog smiling, it's because he's uncomfortable and you need to leave him alone and ignore him straight away, the problem disappeared pretty much overnight. So some examples of people taking dog bits and dog behaviour out of context that I've experienced myself include my last dog, Sunny. She was a Jack Russell cross Patterdale, we think. She was quite reactive and she wasn't comfortable around strangers, but she was also very cute. So people would often ask, oh, can I come and pet your dog? And you'd have to say, no, she's quite snappy. She doesn't really like people that she doesn't know. And then they would say, oh, but look, she's wagging her tail. She's wagging her tail, so she's happy. But that's absolutely not necessarily the case. It can be that. But a wagging tail, especially if it's a slow wagging tail, can show that a dog is very uncertain. And I think we've all seen as well those dogs that are a bit sort of tense and you don't know which way they're going to go when they meet your dog. They have that high, very fast tail wag. So different wags mean different things. And only by looking at the rest of the dog's body language can we really truly interpret what's going on. After I adopted Colby, I discovered the fact that yawning and lip licking can be a sign of stress in dogs. And it can mean that a dog wants to be left alone. And I thought, oh no, I've been overhandling Colby because when I go to stroke him sometimes, he's yawning and flicking his tongue and licking his lips. I did a consent check. Now, consent checks are great. If you're not sure if a dog wants to interact with you, simply give him some space. Now, if he does want to have contact with you, he will move towards you, move into your space. So I tried that with Colby and he did want to interact in that while he was yawning and lip licking, he does that when he's sleepy and he does that when he's relaxed. So it was absolutely nothing to worry about. But these things can worry us if we take them out of context. In a study that was published in Applied Animal Behaviour Science in 2024, again, I'll put a link in the description. We're going to have a long list, aren't we? 96% of dog owners said that they were confident that they could recognise happiness in their dog with no difficulty. From observation, the truth was only 63% of the time did the owners know when their dog was happy. That's less than 2 out of 3 times they were getting it right. They were interpreting their dog's signals correctly. In that same study, almost 90% believed that they could detect fear in their dogs. But when it was observed, only 16% could detect that accurately. We're all guilty of this. But that's because we speak different languages. To understand your dog, you need to speak their language. So it's our responsibility to learn how to do that. What we observe needs to be put in context. So in a minute, I'll get to point 3, but if you're finding this video useful, click the like, maybe the subscribe button, and we'll dive right into point 3, which is not only do we need to be present on our dog so that we can hear what they're saying to us, and they are communicating all the time, but We need to act on what our dog is telling us because it builds trust, it builds a sense of safety, it builds a sense of autonomy and control over the situation for the dog, and it will strengthen your bond enormously. It will make you that safe space from which your dog can explore and experience the world without anxiety. An example of how I would use this with Colby: if we're approaching a bigger dog or a strange object that spooked him, like, I don't know, a tarp flapping about in the wind, from his body language, I can see when he's feeling a little bit nervous, a little bit tense before it escalates, and I will give him the option to cross the street. If I say, do you want to cross? He knows what that means. And sometimes we'll cross the street to give whatever's concerning him a wide berth. Or he might decide he wants to stop and sniff for a little bit to try and get a handle on the situation or diffuse any tension with an approaching dog. But it's subtle signs of their discomfort that we have to look out for. I spoke about consent tests. We tend to put a lot of pressure on our dogs to always be social. We don't always feel social. So if your dog doesn't want to play with another dog that's approaching, if your dog doesn't feel like being petted at any given time, that's fine. Allow your dog that space. Respect the way that he's feeling, because if you force the issue for the sake of politeness, your dog's going to get more and more apprehensive and uncomfortable in that situation. Whereas if he knows that his feelings are going to be respected, he'll be a lot more relaxed and a lot less likely to react in undesirable and unpredictable ways. I've got an interesting quote from Andre Gatling, who's a best-selling author of the book Penelope's Bully. He's a dog trainer and behaviourist, a stand-up comedian, a production manager, a pit bull advocate, plus actor. I'm not particularly familiar with his work, but I did happen across this quote, and I thought it was a really good one. Aggression in a dog is similar to aggression in a human. We're both scared of what we don't understand, and our need to protect leads to aggression. Changing that aggression in a dog is more complex because the dog doesn't speak English. So I had to learn to speak dog. So to recap, we need to understand our dog's body language. We need to understand what they are saying. We need to put what we observe within a frame of context so that we understand more fully. And point 3 is that we need to be present to observe that behaviour, and we need to act on what our dogs are telling us and to help them to feel in control, safe and secure. Get used to observing your dog. Get used to their personal normal. Some dogs naturally hold their tail higher or lower. So we might think, tail high, dog being a bit assertive, tail low, dog's being a little scared, nervous. But Colby's tail curls right round. He's not being assertive or aggressive, it's just the way his tail is built. So we need to keep that in context as well. When you're observing your dog's behaviour, jot down any unexpected or surprising reactions and see what you can learn from having observed that. What do you think it is that your dog might be trying to tell you? Of course, 2020 hindsight is really useful, but it's only useful if we note it and use it. If we use hindsight to beat ourselves up, that's not so useful. There's no point beating yourself up. But what you can do to move forward is to learn from that so that you can help prevent unpleasant things happening and encourage nice things to happen. So if you're aware of what your dog is telling you, you can react and adjust to that before your dog has to shout to get your attention. And it's that shouting that we often see manifest as what we call unacceptable or undesirable behaviours. But your dog's just saying, listen to me. Sometimes we're going to get it wrong. Absolutely. Do I still get it wrong? All the time. Just ask Colby, I'm sure he will tell you. He's sleeping at the moment. But mistakes is how we learn. We're not going to ruin our dog just because we get it wrong. We have evolved with them. They have evolved with us. We are designed to be able to figure this out. If you've got any questions, drop me a message in the comments and I'll try and help the best I can. Can you think of a time when you've misunderstood what your dog was trying to tell you? I would love to hear your stories. Also, if you found this video useful, share it with anyone you know who might also find it useful. Until next time, see you later and listen to your dog.